I'm Summer from Masterbooks Academy, and for this session, I am joined by Coach John Stamper. He's one of the new instructors at Masterbooks Academy. Coach Stamper, thank you so much for giving us some of your time today.
Hi, Summer. Thank you for inviting me. I'm happy to be here.
Well, we are incredibly excited about the classes that you've brought to Masterbooks Academy. For those of you who may not know, Coach Stamper is the instructor for our PE classes for K through 8th grade. Coach Stamper, could you give us a little bit of background information about yourself and what brought you to teaching PE?
Sure. I just wrapped up my 13th year of teaching. My first 3 years, I was a classroom teacher. And for the last 10 years, I've been in the gym. I've also done a lot of coaching, mostly at the varsity level, lots of different sports. So that's kind of what I've done in my whole career, is teaching and coaching. They've kind of always complemented each other. I live in Chicago with my wife, Jenna, who is an attorney here in the city. We have a little dog. I grew up in Indiana. That's where I was homeschooled. Very small town, very rural. And we were homeschooled until a certain point. My siblings and I decided to go back to school. We mostly wanted to play sports. Mm-hmm. And at the time, homeschoolers couldn't join the public school team. So, in terms of Masterbooks, I reached out to Randy and Masterbooks kind of this spring. I've been wanting to go into the homeschool field for a long time now. And I was fortunate that, Randy replied and said, hey, we're interested in adding, PE to our course offerings this year. And that's something that I began to do last year when COVID hit and all the schools went into quarantine and whatnot. I created an online platform for, PE at home to kind of reach out to my students and all the people who are in that situation. So I'm really happy to be doing this with Masterbooks. And I think once students dig into the courses, I think they're going to like it.
Well, and because the classes are so new, do you mind giving us just a quick overview of the classes and the benefit that they bring for families?
Yeah. I mean, so when most people think PE at home, how do you do that? What does that look like? Because, there's no gym floor, there's no storage closet with all the resources. So what I really am trying to do is make it practical, accessible, at home. We focus on skill development, learning or developing skills, and we also focus on physical fitness. So those are the two major components of all the courses, K through 8. You can expect skill development and physical fitness. So 2 lessons per week. You're going to have one on skill development and one on physical fitness.
And you've also included a unique feature into your class, which is the Presidential's Youth Fitness program as well. Would you mind talking about that a little bit? Yeah,
so that's a program that's been around, my whole life. It's what I really like about it is there are national standards based on age group. And so students can not only compete with themselves, but, with the national standards. So there's always a target to aim for, always a goal, to strive for. And in terms of the exercises, you have push-ups, curl-ups, which are like sit-ups, squats, and then the pacer test. So it's really a well-rounded program. But like I said, it always gives you something to strive for. That's what I really like about it.
And it's a program that's really well known, especially for families that might be coming out of the school system and beginning their homeschool journey, or for homeschool families that just haven't been exposed to this yet as an option for their students. You make it accessible through the classes and guide families through training for the test, correct?
I definitely provided demonstration videos or instructional videos on how to complete each exercise. And then families can always access the Presidential Youth Fitness Program site on their own. There are so many other resources there, things that you can buy through their site. But everything that students will need, they can find in our course videos.
And you've touched a little bit on the weekly structure of the class with the lessons and the workouts. Would you mind discussing just a little bit more? If we have families that go to the site, they're able to preview the courses and catch the first week of the course for free. But if they have students in multiple levels or at different levels of physical fitness, what's the best way for them to choose a level of the classes for their family?
Right. So if you're homeschooling multiple children, in the house, how do you decide, which course to go with? Do you need to buy a different course for each student, or can you all share? Very good question. You can definitely share. My recommendation is to always lean toward the younger course. Like say you have a kindergartner and a third grader. I would recommend going with the K1 course, only to reinforce those fundamental skills, in case there's been anything that's been missed over the years. Kind of start with the basics and then build on that, kind of that firm foundation. Let's reestablish the foundation and build on top of that. That's always my recommendation. Err on the side of safety. But as that age gap may span from kindergarten to 8th grade, you may want to consider if the gap is that large. If you have a kindergartner and an 8th grader, they can definitely share, but there might be some gaps there. So that's going to have to be a decision families make, in their own best interest.
And you've actually offered a placement guide and some differentiations between the levels on your class pages, correct?
Right. If you go to the masterbooks site, you should be able to see the differences between the courses. I've outlined some of the similarities and some of the differences. So if you're still on the fence about which course to take, scroll through that. And if something jumps out at you, hopefully that will help. Go through it with your kids and kind of see what they're excited about, what they're interested in, or, maybe choose something that they've never done. I'm big on, trying new things and trying to be creative. So if there's something that you see on our course list that you've never heard of or never tried, I urge you to try that.
So since you've included some of these more outside of the box courses or non-traditional sports within the classes, families might be concerned about the investment in sports equipment. So I know that you've done a great job about providing modifications or options that you can use for things on hand. Would you mind just going into that a little bit for each of the classes, how you've made them accessible for families?
Right. And to me, this is huge. This is huge. And it's what I'm really excited about. This is what I really like, because you get to tap into the creativity. I always look back on my experience when we were homeschooling. Like I said, very rural. We didn't have much. We had a few balls around the house, right? So we had to use our creativity. If we wanted to play a game and we didn't have the resources, we had to be creative, right? So that's something I emphasize in every single lesson. Be creative. Use your imagination. God's given us a wonderful imagination, beautiful creation. So start there. Start with your creativity, right? If you have a problem, if you don't have a piece of equipment, what can you use that is kind of like that piece of equipment, right? For example, if you don't have a baseball or a softball, take a pair of socks, roll them into a ball, and there you go. It's always going to be about the skill development. That is the most important thing. Developing those skills. You can develop skills. It doesn't matter what kind of equipment you have. That's secondary. It's not as important. It's really about the skill development. I certainly don't want families to feel pressure to go out and spend $500 buying every single piece of sports equipment. So I'm always encouraging students to be creative. Take a soccer ball, for example. You can use a soccer ball for soccer, for volleyball, basketball. You could even use it for, some of our baseball, softball lessons, catching and throwing. Handball, you can use it for. So you can use a single item for a lot of different things, right? If you don't have a hockey stick, maybe you have a baseball bat. Maybe you have a broomstick that you can use, right? It's really just about those skills. So again, creativity, creativity, creativity. And what I really hope to see because of that is everyone's lesson will look different. Like let's say everyone is doing a baseball lesson this week, right? Baseball and softball. But all the students in masterbooks, they live in different places. Their yards are different, right? Their equipment is different. So we could be doing the exact same lesson, but it will look 500 different ways. And I think that's awesome. If I see families kind of sharing that and being excited about that, and the community kind of learning from each other. Oh, look at the video that they did. Oh, let's do it that way. Let's try this. So I think it really can build and really get that momentum and that snowball effect, the creativity. So start there and don't give up. You guys can do it.
That's fantastic. And I know it's a relief, especially even for homeschool moms like me, that I don't need to go out and purchase an entire lineup of sports equipment. I don't need to have a gym handy, that I can let my kids use their God-given creativity and imagination to participate and yet still build the skills.
Yes. And you know what? Sometimes, sorry to interrupt, but as a kid, I think that makes it more fun. Can we play baseball with an apple? I don't know. Let's try it out. It can be kind of fun, right? So I think it's a little bit of
PE turned science experimentation.
Sure. There you go. Make some connections.
I know you've touched a little bit on incorporating the creativity and the ability that we have to participate in God's creation around us and the ability to come up with creative solutions. How do you bring the biblical worldview that Masterbooks is so well known for into a subject matter like PE?
Right. So that's kind of my jumping off point is the God of creation, created us. And he's given us each unique gifts and talents and abilities, right? So my encouragement to students is always use those gifts and talents and abilities. But how do you know what they are? How can you use them? Well, you have to try. Okay, you have to stick with it and be creative and really try. You have to get up and go out and do it. But God's given you the talents and abilities to do certain things. So we start there. In a lot of our lessons, we may have an obstacle, maybe an obstacle course or a challenge, right? So what I try to do, as often as I can is make a connection to a biblical truth or a principle that, there are going to be obstacles in life, like, a Red Sea moment. And it's just an opportunity to stop and reflect and look at your relationship with God and what he's done for you in the past or what he's done for, all the, in the Bible stories. So it's a moment to stop, think back, and then take what we know about the Bible and apply it to our lives and move forward. In some lessons, I just stop and encourage students to, hey, if you're having a hard time, stop and pray. Ask for God to, to give you patience or the ability to do this or understanding. It's okay. It's actually a great thing to stop and pray and ask, for God's help. So there's always an opportunity, I think, to either appreciate what God's given you or to stop and have a moment of prayer or, to make a connection with what God's done for you in your life previously, and then take that knowledge and your confidence in that and go forward, apply that, going forward. Sorry, I feel like I'm kind of rambling a little bit.
Well, no, I was just going to say, that's the beauty of homeschooling, right? Is that when these moments come, these challenges come, that we get the opportunity with, as parents, especially with our students and with our children, to take that moment and just stop and just allow the Holy Spirit to permeate the moment and to encourage them in that. Because I think a lot of times in a traditional school setting, there's this notion of an expert and the student, right? But in the homeschool environment, we're all in this together. And so your encouragement throughout the classes to keep trying, to keep working, that it's, progress over perfection, is something that I found encouraging. And I know my kids did as well in previewing the video lessons. And so the way that you've brought in that biblical worldview, it's not really a normal way of approaching the subject matter. And yet it works so perfectly with and complements the matter at hand, the skill developments that you've included in the courses.
Right.
So what does a typical week look like for a student?
So a typical week for a student, students can expect 2 lessons per week. As I mentioned earlier, one lesson will focus on skill development, and that's usually done through a game like basketball or soccer or volleyball. We'll be focusing on a certain set of skills, whether it's hand-eye or catching or throwing or kicking a ball or striking an object. The second lesson each week is a weekly workout that's designed for the Presidential Youth Fitness Program. Things like push-ups and squats and sit-ups and some jogging, things like that, the sit and reach test. And for the weekly workout, there is a lessons checklist where students can actually track their performance, how many push-ups I did today or how many sit-ups. And then if they want to go beyond the minimum kind of requirement that I give them, I give like a minimum workout every week. Start there. But if students want to go beyond that and overachieve, which I think is wonderful, they can track that as well. And then as weeks go on and the school year goes on from, quarter to quarter to quarter, students can kind of see their progress, be like, hey, whoa, way back in quarter one, I was only able to do 5 push-ups. Now here at the end of the year, I'm doing 20. And it's hard evidence of, your progress. Ideally, that's, how I think it should be used. But yeah, two lessons, a skill lesson and a fitness lesson.
And while it is an elective option, it's a full year course, correct?
That's right. 36 weeks. And so each of those weeks, you can expect 2 different things or 2 different lessons. The 9th week of each quarter, I kind of use to wrap up the whole quarter. So for example, in quarter 1, there are 9 weeks. Weeks 1 through 8 will be skill lesson, weekly workout every week. But when you get to week 9, it's kind of like finals week, sort of. That's when we do the performance tests for the Presidential Youth Fitness Program. The push-up test. How many push-ups can you do in 2 minutes? How many squats can you do in 2 minutes, etc. And then there will be some sort of a review based on the activities that we did. And that's going to be different for each grade level. For example, the K1 course, it's usually a drawing activity where you draw pictures, something that I've done with my students in the past. And for the older levels, they're going to answer some questions and maybe make some more biblical ties, in those reviews. We kind of bring more of the Bible into those. But that's kind of how the year is structured. I tried to make the K1 course, the 2-3 course, 4-6 and 7-8. I tried to make them, what's the word? Relatable, or I tried to create some continuity. For example, when K1 is doing soccer, 2-3 is also doing soccer, 4, 5, and 6 are doing soccer, 7 and 8. Everyone's doing soccer. Now the skills might be different. Well, like if you have siblings, in the house and they're all different ages, they'll be doing soccer the same week. So that could be somewhat helpful,
Oh yeah, that's really helpful. I actually had not noticed that in looking across the differences in the levels, that they were parallel in what they were presenting as far as their scope and sequence.
Well, as much as is possible. That's not always the case. For example, I think like with hockey, we might do hockey with the younger grades, but it stops after 3rd grade. So instead of hockey, when you get to 4th grade, it'll be something else that uses an implement. It won't be a hockey stick. It'll just be something else in your hand that you have to use. Maybe it's baseball or batting, something like that. So there should be some continuity. I'm kind of just replacing one stick with another stick sort of thing. But I definitely tried to achieve that throughout all the courses, K through 8, because I had families in mind that, like my family, we spanned 6 grade levels, so we're all different ages. So how can we help out the families and make it as easy as possible on them? Trying to do the same sort of things each week. Like if you go on a beach vacation and you want to play beach volleyball, great. Everyone's doing it at the same time. So that's awesome.
And that's one of the great things about the Masterbooks Academy is the flexibility. You don't necessarily have to follow the course schedule precisely. If you are having access to equipment or a location one week that you may not get another week, you can easily switch up the lessons, correct?
Oh yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. That's something I remember doing when I was younger, homeschooling. We would often work ahead. If we had a special trip or something big coming up in our family, we would work ahead, or we would take our work with us on the road. And that's the beauty of homeschooling, is that it provides families that freedom. So I love that.
All right, well, we've talked a little bit about what students can expect. What level of parental involvement was developed with the course as you were developing this for families and expecting what the parents would need to be involved in for each of the class levels?
Right. Well, generally, I think the younger students might need a little more help, maybe just kind of navigating the online course and maybe printing off a document, or when you get the lessons checklist, where to write in my push-ups, things like that. The younger students, I think, would need more help there. Other than that, it's at your own discretion. I mean, another beautiful thing about homeschooling is the connection with family. Mm-hmm. So as much as you can involve more people in the lessons, I think that's wonderful. At the bare minimum, what I had in mind when I created the courses and the lessons is, can a student do this on their own? I tried to make that the minimum requirement. So for almost every activity, you can do this on your own. But as you add people in, the more people that you include in your lessons, I think it only improves the quality of the lesson or the course. So I strongly encourage parents and siblings to join in, as much as is possible. I understand, we all have busy lives and things like that, but it's not something that requires a ton from parents, but it's strongly recommended, that the whole family play together.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And I think sometimes homeschool families don't always consider PE when they're choosing curriculum options for the year.
Right.
And so the opportunity that Masterbooks Academy provides for them to enroll in this, and at such a great price point, really makes it so accessible, not just for the individual, but for the families, like you said, to participate together. Are there any words of encouragement that you'd like to share with the students or with the parents and families, just as they're beginning to select which PE level might work best for them, or as they begin taking the course?
Well, I mean, something that was just on my mind as you were talking is, with parents are going to be the role models, right? Mm-hmm. So if you have students that are, participating in a lesson, maybe trying a new skill, I'm not there in person with them, right? There's not much back and forth. They can go back to the video and rewatch the video, but another reason why I encourage parents or even older siblings to be involved is be good role models, be good examples, not only show students how to, do something correctly, but show students how to respond when you fail. Show them how to respond when it's difficult, when you're stressed out, when you're losing your patience. That's a great opportunity, I think, for parents to kind of model that for their children. I'm not a parent, so I don't want to, speak for parents, but as a teacher, I can definitely speak on behalf of a teacher, that it's just as, if not more important, to model how to respond when things don't go your way. That has to be modeled, I think, for kids. And so it's another wonderful opportunity for parents to kind of not just focus on sports or skills, but that's a parenting moment, right? You're teaching your child lessons about life. And of course, bring in the Bible and talk about God and Christ, and, just make connections like that. So that's one reason why I strongly encourage parents. That's my word of advice to them. A word of encouragement to students is be creative. Be creative, have fun, try new things. You'll never know if you don't try. You have to try. Really push yourself, surprise yourself. Like I said earlier, God's given us talents and abilities, but maybe there are talents and abilities that you don't even know you have that are just waiting out there for you to be discovered. So get out there and discover them, right? Apply yourself and have fun. That's just my word of encouragement to students. You can do it.
Well, I know my kids, as they have already previewed some of the lessons, are really excited. I'm not very athletically inclined. And so they are super excited to get mom out there with them. And It's been a humbling moment for me to go, you know what, this is more about them. And like you said, building that skill, building that relationship along the way. And so we're looking forward to incorporating those, I know, in our own homeschool journey.
Yeah, I know we might be a little over, but I do want to touch on that, what you just said. My teaching philosophy is that I want every student to realize that they can be successful in my class. Now, that might look different for everybody. Your success might look different from mine, and that's fine. We're all different. We're all unique, but everyone can be successful here. Okay, so that's just part of my philosophy. That's what I hope for students, is that they can come to that realization that, hey, I can do this, right? I don't have to be a superstar, right? I can just do it out of enjoyment. And I want to encourage, like lifetime activity, lifetime health. I want you to live an active lifestyle. So I think it starts when you're young.
Yeah. And again, as parents, we can lead the way. We can lead out in front and encourage them in that process of skill development and growth in an area that's not commonly available to the homeschool community.
Yeah.
So if you'd like to check out Coach Stamper's videos, they're available at masterbooksacademy.com. We have 4 different levels for you to choose from. As Coach Stamper pointed out, we also have a placement guide if you have any questions about that. And we're really excited, as he alluded to earlier, to see some of your photos and your videos of your Masterbooks Academy in action shots as you all complete the course and as families begin to go through the course of this upcoming school year. So Coach Stamper, thank you so much for your time today. We so appreciate you taking this time to walk us through these new courses and are so excited about the offerings that you've brought to Masterbooks Academy.
Thank you, Summer. I am so appreciative of you and Randy and Masterbooks for the opportunity, and the families, for taking the courses. I look forward to, seeing pictures and videos and getting some feedback, and improving the courses for the future. So I hope everyone enjoys it.
Yep, I'm looking forward to all of the photos and videos as well. I think it's going to be so much fun, not even just to see the action shots, but to see how they're going to progress throughout the year as well, as we all complete these activities together. Again, you can find Coach Stamper's classes at masterbooksacademy.com. Thanks for joining us today.